again, Cuphead! The highest grade in the game is an S rank. And as someone who has done it about 6 times, I can't help but wonder, what is the worst grade you can get in Cuphead? After some testing, I found out that it is a D-. After considering it for a little bit, I thought that the challenge would be way too easy. And to counter that, I will be using the worst combo, Chaser and Twin Heart. And when I asked the community for difficulty, you have got to be kidding me. And so, here we are. Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil, and obviously, the delicious last course, Game Journalist Challenge. Let's go! Huh? Beow! Beow! Oh! Did you like the new intro? I hand drew it, and I'm pretty proud of it. But back to the point. The rules. I will start with a new save file. I will be getting a D- in every level that has a ranking screen. Bosses like Angel and Demons and all the King's Leap bosses do not count to get a D-. You first need to wait for an unnecessary amount of time to get a bad time. Have 1 HP by the end of the level. Never parry, never use super EX attacks, and as for the running guns, instead of using EX or supers, I can't collect a coin. So, the only way we're getting a coin is by the secret ones and King's Leap. The difficulty stars do not matter as much to get the D-. Oh, and we can't forget, we have to use Chaser and Twin Heart for all bosses. And as for the plain bosses, I will be using bullets and bombs. So, yeah. To get a bad time, I will be using a stopwatch on my phone so that it is more precise and I know how long I have to stay without staying there for too long and too short. With all the rules out of the way, let's start failing but succeeding in Cuphead. How do you do that anyway? We start by Cuphead losing a bet to the devil, and now we have to gather the 17 contracts. We do the tutorial as normal, gather some coins, and now let's do our first few levels. Forest Follies has set us an example what running guns are gonna be like for the rest of this challenge. It's not too bad. We just have to avoid the coins, never parry, and we finish! Crap, I forgot that we have to wait a while at the very end, or the very beginning, for like 5 to 10 minutes, but we got our D-. We now have the coins to buy Chaser. Now we need more coins to get Twin Heart. We save the Legendary Chalice, and we go to Inkwell Isle IV. The Legendary Chalice casually kills Mugman, and Saltbaker, who is definitely not evil, gives us a quest to gather the 5 ingredients to make Chalice alive once more. In Inkwell Isle IV, we use Chalice for the first and only time in this challenge, and we go to the King's Leap and show those bosses who's boss. And we got our coins. We can now afford the Twin Heart, and we make it back to Inkwell Isle I. Now we have the required weapons for this challenge. Now let us go to a bar. Just kidding, we're going to the next run and gun. Treetop Trouble was not too bad. Like Forest Follies, we just had to wait a little bit until we could exit the level, and the coins were easy to avoid if you were mindful enough. And not parrying was simple to avoid. And have 1 HP by the end of the level by just falling into the pit and take those hits. And land back on the ground and just wait. And the level's done! Now that we have finished the run and guns in this part of the Inkwell Isles, let us go to our first boss. The route pack was a little confusing because I have yet to get used to the properties of this challenge, and the biggest problem was that it was on Expert. I didn't want to avoid this for 5 minutes, so I made the ultimate sacrifice by taking 1 hit and just standing behind Sal's Sputter for 4 to 6 minutes. Shot Sal's Sputter down. Ollie Ball was the most difficult phase in this boss fight, mostly because of the teardrops. They are so much faster on Expert, and I have less time to react, but it was not too bad. Chauncey Jauntony was a little messy. The chaser always home in on the carrots, and that means that Chauncey will be taking less damage. But I can do this phase comfortably with 1 HP left, so that leaves the route pack defeated. Goopy La Grande. Goopy was the hardest boss in the game, period. I have died to him so many times, I will never see Goopy the same way ever again. He starts by jumping from left to right and attacks eventually. But Goopy has had enough. He is no longer joking around, and he grows bigger, more powerful. Unlike jumping from left to right and attacking eventually, he jumps from left to right and attacks eventually. Cuphead may have killed Goopy, but Goopy just won't quit, not even after death. Instead of jumping from left to right and attacking eventually, he slides from left to right and attacks. All jokes aside, I was the most comfortable with moving around in the final phase because the only way Goopy can really hit you is by smashing his gravestone. Just dash and it's not too bad. And we get the time required for the D-, and no one really parries anyway, unless if you figure out that the question marks are parryable. So we have destroyed a gravestone and got the contract. Bluebird was the first hard boss in the challenge. Let me just say it. I hate those green blimps. They are not fun to dodge. And the phase I am most comfortable with dodging in is, unsurprisingly, the first phase. It takes some self-control to avoid the pink projectiles, in which Mugman is a master of. Phase 2 is not that hard. All you have to do is move clockwise or counterclockwise. Phase 3 is just phase 1, just harder. Hilda fires a tornado, and it is not too bad to dodge. This also goes for phase 5. However, as for phase 4, the stars are just not fun to dodge. However, the fact that they can be shot down makes this phase a whole lot easier. The final phase was scary. The UFOs are just painful to dodge, while stars are being shot towards us, and I have to beat Hilda with 1 HP. And at the same time, I am trying to save some of my hit points for this phase alone. But after many tries, I have destroyed the moon, and we are probably all gonna die in a few minutes because of the debris. Cagney Carnation was also an annoying boss. The first phase alone just made me mad. Cagney will shoot out some seeds, and on Expert, he just does it until the next phase. One good thing about this phase is that the chaser will do its job and home in on the seed things, and that makes damaging Cagney slower, which is perfect for this challenge. The phase I have spent the longest in is the second phase. Cagney will shoot out his head, seed things, and a boomerang. Thankfully, it is very simple to dodge, and we move on to the final phase. Cagney turns into a flower beast and blocks off the ground, forcing us to shoot from the platforms. And because of Cagney blocking some of the platforms from time to time, we have to keep moving. But eventually, we somehow ripped his eyes out, but we got our next contract. Our final boss of the Inkwell Isle I is none other than Ribby and Croaks, and this fight was not too bad. The first phase was a projectile hell. Ribby will be punching his fist beam things, while Croaks is spitting out fireflies. Literally. Phase 2 was the phase I spent the longest in. Croaks is a fan, and Ribby claps some energy beams, and sometimes throws the fist beams from the previous phase. And all you have to do is move from left to right and dash to avoid the attacks when necessary. And just get the bad time, and we move on to the final phase. Croaks ate Ribby, that is cannibalism right there, and turns into a slot machine. And we have to parry the hand to proceed. Well, if you thought that we lost this challenge, it turns out that required parries are not necessary to the parry counter in the end of the level. So, if it doesn't fill your super meter, it does not count as a parry. The best slot machine attack is the bowl, because all you have to do is jump up, down, And as for the frog, it's a little bit harder to jump from platform to platform. And as for the tiger, you can barely get any hits to the slot machine. But after a little while, we finally got our next contract. Now that we beat Inkwell Isle I, let's go to Inkwell Isle II. Baroness von Bonbon was one of those bosses that did not take too long, but it was not too short for this fight. You have to really get good RNG to win. The gumball was just suddenly hard for some reason, and the jawbreaker is just not that fun to dodge. The waffle is a dodging worthy one. Same goes with the candy corn if you are going to do it. And my personal favorite in terms of dodging, the muffin. The jelly beans are annoying because they appear in every phase except the final. And for once, the floating candy wrapper has a purpose outside of the final phase. So after dodging for a few minutes, we have finally made it to the final phase. The Baroness makes her castle walk towards Cuphead while shooting her head and peppermints. The heads are one of the more painful homing projectiles in this game. And after about 30 painful seconds, we finally get the next soul contract. Time to fight a Twitter or whatever it's called user. The first phase was not too bad, and you may be surprised, but this is not the phase that I like to dodge in. All you have to do is shoot down the ducks and dodge Beppy ramming his bumper car onto the other side of the screen. Phase 2 is a little harder. The dog balloons that chase the player are pretty easy to evade, and the roller coaster is our frenemy for this challenge. And look at this cool dodge. How did I do it? I have no idea, but it's cool. My favorite phase to dodge in is the third phase because the Charlie horse horseshoes are so easy to dodge, and the roller coaster's not that bad. And with that, we get to the hardest phase of the fight, the final phase. The penguins alone make this phase hard, not to mention that the roller coaster's like 5 times faster. But after many attempts, we showed Beppy that Twitter, or whatever it's called, sucks. Before we fight our next boss, let us get the bombs, and here we go. Next up is Jimmy the Great. Jimmy was pretty straightforward. The best phase to dodge in was the first phase. Just make sure it's the knives and shrink and go behind Jimmy and move up and down for a while, and we get to the next phase. A tip for the pillars: if there are 2 pillars, try to destroy them both to make the third phase faster and shorter. Speaking of the third phase, we get mummies and whatever this thing is, and dodging is not much of a problem. The fourth phase has my boy Cuphead, or as I like to always call him, Puphead. Puphead shoots his bullets much faster, and the way I counter that is by just get good. There's also this stupid hat that is stupidly hard to dodge, and as soon as we shot Puphead down, the final phase is not too hard, just chaotic. There's Jimmy's eye beam, and those pyramid lasers. Just saying, but it was nerve-wracking to do this phase with 1 HP. But eventually, we beat Jimmy the Great, and we got our next contract. Before we go into our third run and gun, we save Chalice once more, and we get Super 2, the most useful super for this challenge. Funfair Fever was not too difficult, and shooting enough times will give you Super 2, and we just easily skip the end, and we just destroy the hot dog, and wait. Now let us show us the results. Our next run and gun is Funhouse Frazzle. Like the previous run and gun, it is not too interesting. Just shoot down everything in the wall. Bosses go down pretty easily. But the thing I'm wondering about this level is, if you reach this level upside down, then what would happen? Would Mugman just go flying into the sky and die by the sun? Or would he just fall down to the ground? Oh no. Oh no. No! Now, this right here, this is the first boss I have been struggling to beat for 2 days in a row. The first phase was the easiest phase to dodge for some reason, but the attacks were not all too bad. However, surviving for 2 to 5 minutes is a pain in the butt. The laser eye attack is the attack I have screwed up the most on. The technical second phase is just like the first phase, but with more attacks. But let's be real here. No one really cares about this phase. The third phase has Grim speaking in fire, literally, but the fire jumpers were just a pain to dodge. But it's not the worst phase. The worst phase is obviously the final phase. The fireballs alone just make this phase really difficult. Not to mention that I will most likely have 1 HP at this point in time. The only way I can truly attack is by the flamethrower attack, because Chaser has to do its homing job. And with those fireballs, it did not end well for me on several occasions. But after 2 days, I beat Grim. Our final boss in Inkwell Isle II is Wally Warbles. Wally was a hard but not hard boss. The first phase was harder because of the eggs shooting vertically, and it was not fun to dodge. The bullets were easy to dodge. However, there were also those birds trying to destroy you, but other than that, it's not that bad. Phase 2, Wally spreads his wings out and his feathers are flying. And let me just tell you, it's not as bad as it's cut out to be. The third phase was the one phase I had to dodge for a while in. Willie's spiky eggs were annoying and awkward to dodge, and the pink lasers just useless. But after enough practice, the spiky eggs were not that bad. The final phase has an injured Wally shooting projectiles at you, and it's not that bad. Just have 1 HP remaining and use the bombs and telegraph the attacks. And I know what I'm having for dinner. We have finished Inkwell Isle II. Now let's go on to Inkwell Isle III. Now, Rumor Honeybottoms was not that bad until the thing happened, but we will get into that in a little bit. Phase 1 has Rumor send a bee cop to take care of Mugman. The bee cop will send projectile bombs at Mugman, and it's not too bad to dodge. The second phase was not that hard. The middle chain neck bullet bill thing was easy. Same goes with the parryable objects. The final phase was not too hard, just a chainsaw and some homing fists. But then I beat the boss with 2 HP! Now, after that trauma, I just had enough of Rumor Honeybottom's crap, and I just wanted it to end as soon as I could. And eventually, I destroyed Rumor, and now my card looks like crap. Captain Brinybeard was another one of those bosses. In the first phase, Brinybeard doesn't even try to hit you with his sea minions. He just uses a squid while the barrel's trying to hit you, and you guessed it, it's the phase I spent the most time in. Phase 2 is where Brinybeard finally steps up his game. He calls his sea minions, and eventually the boat will start spitting out some cannonballs at you. And honestly, the entire phase can be done pretty easily. The final phase, Brineybeard's ship just had enough and decides to take Mugman on his own. The final phase, duck, shoot, dash, move, while the boat is spinning balls and laser beams and the Brill's doing their job. But after a little bit, we have defeated Brineybeard and we got our next contract. Our second to final run and gun is Rugged Ridge, and this level is not all that interesting. Just get to the end of the level without parrying and without collecting the coin, and just wait, make sure you have 1 HP, and you're good to go. The Cyclops chase was not that bad though. You don't have to get the coin, which just makes things a lot better, so nothing too interesting. Our final run and gun must be the most challenging, most interesting of them all, right? Well, just don't wait at the end because of this enemy, and instead just wait at the beginning, and yeah, all the run and guns were just a big miss for this challenge. Our next boss was Sally Stageplay. Sally is an easier boss for this challenge. The first phase was that one phase I had been dodging in. Sally could teleport, throw a fan, spin, and blow you a deadly kiss. Sally's husband is just being goofy in the background, and whenever Cuphead shoots, Sally's husband panics, which I find silly. After a little while, we make it to phase 2. Phase 2 was the same as phase 1, just minus the blow kiss attack, and replace it with the mouse wind-up toys. Also, the babies were annoying. Phase 3 was that phase that I thought I was going to be dodging in. However, the meteor can't be opened up quick enough to avoid the big wave. But the lighting was not that bad, and we get to the final phase. Sally's floating in the sky while her umbrella was attacking the player. But after some stress and anxiety with having 1 HP left, we traumatized this kid over here and we get our next soul contract. Now, this is a challenging boss right here. Werner Werman was the perfect challenge. He's not too hard, where you'll be bursting your keyboard or controller, but not too easy to the point where you just yawn. It is balanced, like all things should be. Phase 1 was the phase I was dodging in. The attacks are fun to dodge, and the junk attack is pretty difficult to avoid. And the cherry bombs take proper timing with the classic jump and dash. The second phase is short, but chaotic. The bottle caps are literally everywhere, and it is super difficult to deal with Warner's fire at the same time. But the cat ate Warner, and now we are left to fight the cat. The cat's attacks are a pulse swipe and summon ghost, and this phase was stressful, considering the fact that we have Chaser with us. It is more difficult, but after lots of tries, Warner lets the cat out of the bag by accident, and we got his soul contract. Oh no. It is time for Dr. Call's robot. Okay, I had enough of this crap. You are going down, Dr. Call. The first phase is stressful as always. The laser or parry thing, destroy immediately when starting the fight. Destroy the stomach because the droids are stupid to avoid and the bombs are significantly easier to dodge. And finally, destroy the antenna and destroy the heart. Phase 2 was the phase I have been dodging in. I mean, Mugman is a really good pilot. Just look at him. He's evaded more than 40 homing bombs. And the phase that you have all been waiting for me to cover is here. Dr. Call's final phase. Dr. Call sends what seems to be the Chaos Emerald's energy beams at you, and while dealing with this bullet hell, you have to avoid a laser roll. And it was stressful to dodge, as always. But I will not let Dr. Call have the final laugh this time. After many, many tries, I finally showed Dr. Call who's the boss around the Inkwell Isles. For some reason, in this challenge, Maria was harder than Dr. Call of all bosses. The difference between Cal and Dr. Call is that Maria's fight is a little more confusing to conclude which phases I'm going to dodge in. At first, I thought it would be the final phase, but that did not age well. But we will get to that. Kala's first phase was not too bad. There was a crap ton of attacks in this phase alone. The fishes, the ghosts, the blowfish, the seahorse, etc. In the turn of events, the second phase is the phase I'm going to be dodging in, and you might be wondering, how are you going to survive a bullet hell phase? Well, you can just kill the eels, so let's just say, choppy choppy. Being turned into stone is not as bad as it sounds, but the final phase was just move, break, free, avoid, then soon we have defeated Maria. The Phantom Express. It may come as a surprise, but the Phantom Express is the easiest boss for this challenge. In the first phase, Blind Spectre will be shooting at you, and the best part about all this, the chaser will always go for the eye and destroy it. So that helps us get the bad time that we desire. Also make sure that you parry the left rail, and thankfully it's not one of those parries that are required. So that makes a whole lot of things better. The conductor is so simple to deal with. All he does is just smash his hand onto the ground. The third phase has us fighting the lollipop ghouls. The chaser does its job properly because of the lasers were no sweat. The final phase was made for chaser. Thomas the Tank Engine uses fire and those bone things, and the pumpkin thing returns. But after like a few seconds, we have defeated the Phantom Express, and we got our final soul contract. We have now finished Inkwell III. Now it is time to go to Inkwell Isle Hell for the final world in the main game. Now, we are here at King Dice. As usual, I will recommend the bosses that I thought were pretty easy with this challenge, and I will do this quickly. Tipsy Troop. This is one of the recommended bosses. Chip's Bed again. Not the best, but doable. Mr. Wheezy. Also one of the recommended bosses. Pippin Dot. These two are the best ones for this lane of bosses. Hocus Pocus. No, it is Parry or Die. Fear Lap. It is not too bad, however Pip and Dop are 10 times better. Pirletta. Without Smoke Bomb or Chalice, this is a no. Mango Steam. There are only like 2 attacks, so this is recommended. Mr. Chimes. For some reason, this is the one I ended up doing, and he is easy, so that is that. Also, it's not a required parry to parry those cards. So now that we're near King Dice's fight, just wait like 10 minutes to get a bad time, and then get to King Dice. You have to get behind his hand the entire time because the cards count as a parry, but overall, just jump behind his hand and make sure that you have 1 HP, and that is another boss complete. Now it is time to face the devil himself. Here we are. We made it to the devil himself. And what is the game's title again? Ah yes, that's right. By dealing with Satan, we have become evil, and we beat the game! Yay. That's it. You know what? Screw it. I'll say no and defeat Satan, like the good boy I am. The devil does not take it well, and the devil is one of the hardest bosses for this challenge. And to be honest, the devil does not disappoint for a final boss. Phase 1 was freaking chaotic. The devil's throwing everything he has got to destroy Mugman. The devil will use the dark magic, the easiest ones being the fire ones. Just jump and make sure to avoid the minions. The in-between in terms of difficulty are the bouncy balls. Just make sure you know their physics, and the hardest ones are the rotating ones. I have to lightly jump and dash to avoid it. The spider head is not too difficult to avoid, just annoying. The snake head is not that bad, just worry about the minions. And the devil's favorite attack, and my least favorite thing with this challenge, the goat attack. I have to do a high jump and dash, and this phase lasts forever because with the worst weapon combo. But as for waiting, that is my least of my concerns. When the devil's transitioning into his second phase, he rips out his skin off and he jumps into a hole. Now the game wants us to go down. However, you can be right next to the hole and just wait for 5 minutes, and then you go down the hole to activate phase 2. Phase 2 till the final are very chaotic phases. The poker chips are falling from platforms, the axe attack just sucks, and the parry bomb immediately go to the other side of the screen. Phase 3 is not any better. The devil sends henchmen and henchman's brother, henchman, and the blue small devil things, and the poker chips strike again. But after many attempts, we get to the final phase. Easily the most stressful phase with 1 HP in the main game. The poker chips are falling, the tears of Satan are falling. And after many tries, Mugman has finally defeated the devil. We make him surrender. We save the souls of the Inkwell Isle bosses by destroying all the contracts. We go home to celebrate the devil's defeat. Now the people who were trying to kill us like this past 50 minutes loves us. And that is Cuphead Don't Deal with the Devil. Now that we have defeated the devil, the legendary chalice is mad that we forgot our secondary mission, and that is bringing this chalice back to life. So what are we waiting for? Let's go to Inkwell Isle IV. Our first boss on this DLC mission is Glumstone the Giant. Glumstone's fight was very chaotic because of those stupid gnomes. The pot attack is very annoying to avoid, and the geese attack, the platforms are against me. What did I ever do to make the platforms mad? And the bear attack, the front platform is always gone. Glumstone gets mad and transforms into his second phase. The second phase is very annoying because it is always the gnomes. Screw the gnomes. The ball physics is not that bad, but the gnomes just made it worse. We broke Glumstone's puppets and decides that he has had enough and decides to just get it over with just by eating us. And we go to the final phase. This is the phase where I decided to dodge, and we meet Jeff. Jeff's attacks are not that bad. And after a few minutes, I started shooting, and in this phase, it is Chaser's time to shine. We somehow escaped Glumstone's belly, but I would rather not question that. Let's just leave with the gnome berries. The Moonshine Mob is the easiest boss in the DLC because of the pacing. The first phase was pretty fun. Avoiding the bombs and the bugs and Charlie left legs making your turn is still pretty cool to me. There's not much to the first phase. The second phase is fun. The jitterbug is that one kid in the hallways blasting music. And Chaser does its job properly in this phase. The final phase has the anteater stick out its tongue and shoot out bouncy projectiles. And be careful, and we will defeat the Moonshine Mob. But oh no, the true final phase has the unnamed snail eater shoot out waves, and this is the phase I decided to dodge in because, you know, it's the final phase, and it's a little more comfortable to dodge in, having 1 HP. And just like that, we took down the Moonshine Mob and got the distillery dough. Oh, so that's what the dog is doing. The Howling Aces was a pretty fun boss. And the first phase has the bulldog will try to use a tattoo, a cat, wait. And does all that while unnamed puppies throw tennis balls at you. The second phase was the phase I decided to dodge on. The letters are easy to avoid, and after doing this for a few minutes, we move on to the final phase, where lasers are being shot out, and the screen is getting rotated, and shooting dog balls at you. I calculated that it takes around 6 rotations until the boss is defeated, and this was overall pretty stressful, because you should have 1 HP by now, but after many tries, we have destroyed an unnamed dog leader's attack helicopter, and we probably destroyed a farm, but we got pineapple mint, so it was worth it. More timer freeze. This fight took me forever to defeat him. Originally, I thought I was going to be dodging in the first phase. Goodness gracious. I wasted a crap ton of time. More timer shoots icicles, can pull out a well, and use fortune cards against you. The second phase is the hardest phase because of the multiple cool attacks Jupiter has. Jupiter can slam the floor, do that silly song from Sonic Adventure 2, and become a fridge. My strategy for the fridge is to stay in the very back of the screen, so that if he rolls, I can much more comfortably dodge. And those popsicles, I just hate the popsicles. Once More Timer is transitioning into his final phase, jump over his legs and wait a few minutes. Yes, that's right. I could have saved my time, but oh well. I'd rather find it out than never realize after I beat the boss. The final phase was stressful because of the attacks are harder to dodge. The buckets are very annoying, the snow cones are easy, and I drank too much coffee. But after many tries, I defeated More Timer Freeze and got the icy sugar cubes. Our Our next and final plane boss in this game is Esther Winchester. And for being the final plane boss in the game, dang, Esther does not disappoint. The first phase is very chaotic. We have to avoid Esther shooting snake oil, a horsefly that fires spikes, and Vulture Prospector is shooting dynamite. And Esther can use her lasso and grab a cactus to block half of the screen. And this was only the second most chaotic phase. Phase 2 sucks. Please don't leave. Esther uses her vacuum to suck money and blows vaults that break more money that home in on you. The third phase has Esther suck herself into a vacuum and look, it's a cooker. And now she is a bunch of sausages. Phase 3 is the phase that I decided to dodge. All Esther does is shoot steak and jump and shoot steak while beams are flying towards you. Thankfully, it is pretty straightforward. Just shrink and avoid all that. The final phase was another one of the more stressful phases in the game. Esther turns into spam and shoots sausages. You have to avoid, and Esther shoots jalapenos. And with 1 HP, this is no simple task. But after many tries, I showed Esther Winchester who the sheriff is in town. And we got the final ingredient, the desert limes. We have all 5 of the legendary ingredients for the Wonder Tart. And we go to a not secret dungeon and we find out that Saltbaker has Miss Chalice captive. And Saltbaker's evil. Oh no! Anyways, we have one single boss left. Let's destroy Saltbaker. Our final boss in Cuphead is Chef Saltbaker. Saltbaker was the boss that took me the longest to defeat. And he is the hardest boss in this challenge. And there's a good reason why. Phase 1 is just simply a bullet hell. Saltbaker kills the icy sugar cube, the distillery dough, and the desert limes and uses their corpses to attack Cuphead. And those 2 stupid fireballs, they get in the way. And Saltbaker's final attack in phase 1 is the gnome berries, but it's pretty straightforward to dodge. And thankfully, we have a homing weapon for this fight. And it makes it all the easier, because now I can only focus on dodging, while knowing that almost all of my shots are hitting Saltbaker. And after a literal minute, Saltbaker has had enough, puts a pink mushroom in his cap? What? And he grows. Wonder where that came from. And Saltbaker grows huge and summons his pepper minion and 2 extra fireballs. Great. Saltbaker will also be throwing the pineapple mint at Cuphead while the fireballs are just being as annoying as ever. And the pepper sneeze, it's not too bad. You have to destroy the pepper to destroy Saltbaker. And once you break Saltbaker's glass and turn the place into a salt domain, and phase 3 begins. And this is the phase that I have been dodging on. The saw blades and the awkward gravity does not make this phase better. But then again, it is the least chaotic phase, because the final phase I cannot platform well enough on. And the bad time for this boss is 6 minutes! And that means I have to spend 3.5 minutes on this phase. And the final phase just makes my heart beat. And I have anxiety every time when I'm in this phase with 1 HP on expert mode. The final phase has Saltbaker's heart bouncing around the map, while Saltbaker's glass shards are falling, and you have to platform, and then I beat. Yeah! I failed a total of 3 times trying to D-minus Saltbaker, but then it happened. I have defeated Chef Saltbaker. We saved Miss Chalice once more, and we escaped the bakery. And Miss Chalice is like, maybe another time. And Saltbaker gets community service, even though it just doesn't really make sense. He did worse stuff, but oh well. At least Saltbaker redeems himself and rebuilds his bakery, and the Cup Trio and all of Inkwell IV residents gathered around the grand reopening of Chef Saltbaker's bakery. And that is Cuphead, the delicious last course. Now that I have failed all the Cuphead bosses, though there is no is it possible question to answer, I will instead show how many times I've died and the boss list. I have died 247 times. And whoops, let me fix that up. There. Here's Inkwell 1, 2, there's another slip up on Inkwell 3, but it's fine. Inkwell Hell, Inkwell 4, I messed up on Saltbaker, so yeah. Do I recommend this challenge? No. As far as the next video, I want to do a different game. So, what am I waiting for? I will start. Hey look! I got the final member of the barbershop quartet. Let's see what they have to say.
It's nice to rest your eyes and maybe go outside. Grab a book and get some air. So what are you waiting for? Why not take a quick break? Tune the radio. There's chores to do, there's leaves to rake. Strum the old banjo. You can practice your Lindy Hop. And maybe later
Sing with your barbershop!
Why not take a little quick break and come back for more? Or then come back for more. Or please come back for more.
Okay, I am done touching that green stuff outside that grows. Oh, and here's a remake of the outro that was hand-drawn by myself. Have a good day, and I'll see you in a month. Bum, bum.